So, Lassiter, could you just introduce yourself to our archetype readers? Tell us what life might look like for you, where you're from, if you have any hobbies or interests outside of writing, and anything that you might be proud of.
I'm Lassiter. I'm from Brooklyn. I just recently graduated from Purchase. I work as a fiction editor at a magazine called Chaotic Merge. And if I'm not writing, I'm usually drawing, which makes me a really big homebody. So I don't really do much outside of that. I'm all consumed with all the arts.
That's awesome. It sounds like you're super artistic, super creative. I can always appreciate that from one artist to another. Could you tell us how you began writing, or when you maybe kind of ultimately realized that it was a craft that you wanted to pursue more seriously?
Yeah, I think in sixth grade, because up until fifth grade, I wanted to be an artist. I really liked anime, so I wanted to draw manga. But then, like, my ideas for what I wanted to happen were so much bigger than what I could actually draw because I was just a little kid. But I could write everything that I wanted down. So I started just writing like comic strips, but then I just started just writing and not drawing it anymore. And I just started getting more consumed with books and writing and that kind of thing. And I thought, oh, this might actually be something that I enjoy even more than the process of making a comic. I enjoy maybe drawing an illustration or two, but then writing the majority of it.
That's so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, do you think you could share with us some of the inspiration behind your piece entitled Somewhere Beautiful that will be featured in our upcoming issue of Archetype, and how that came to life? And maybe in addition, you could tell us if it means anything in particular to you, um, kind of messaging in between the lines or anything like that.
Yeah, so Somewhere Beautiful, the first thing that inspired Somewhere Beautiful was that I was thinking of that. I think it's a poem or something. It's about a two-headed calf that is about to die, but you look it up at the stars or something like that. And I was just thinking about like animals that animals that die and like newborn things and like babies and life and death, that sort of thing. That always sounds so grandiose, but I swear I'm not that pretentious. I was thinking about like how you don't normally see older gay characters. A lot of queer literature is for like 20s or teens, that kind of thing. It's pretty rare to see either a child or somebody who's middle aged or even an elder. And I was thinking about like life isn't just going to be me at 20, me at as a teen. And I wanted to see if I could maybe show what a life might look like if you're an older gay person. And I wanted to have it set in a rural setting where it could just be the characters there mostly. And I wanted to contrast the kind of rural desert kind of place, not desert, but I wanted to contrast the rural quiet setting with the kind of fraught relationship of the two main characters, and also kind of the world as static around them, informing them. And yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to end it with like this kind of rambunctious party kind of atmosphere that kind of contrasts the beginning scene where it starts off with like a death and it ends with like a life.
You are so right about a lot of literature out there not really featuring older queer characters. A lot of the time it is kind of younger people. So I think what's great about Somewhere Beautiful, and this piece in particular, is that it does feature an older, maybe middle-aged queer person, and also sheds light on that demographic, I should say. Is there anything new that you're working on now, or maybe any other publications that you might want to share with our readers?
Yes. Your publication is the newest short story that I've gotten out, but I'm working on a collection of short stories that follow one family throughout, like, there's four children and it follows them from childhood to adulthood. And in each section, they have one story from childhood, teenagerdom, and adulthood. And so I wanted to see if I could follow an entire family throughout their lives, basically. And then it's not being queried anywhere or anything. I'm still finishing it, but be on the lookout. Maybe you'll see it somewhere someday.
Definitely. Looking forward to that. What kind of writing would you say that you practice most? And maybe I can even open this up to like more of your artistic ability too. If you want to speak a little bit about that, that's totally fine too. We don't have to keep it to just writing, because we do encourage any kind of medium of art here. So feel if you're comfortable talking about that too, please feel more than free to do so.
For writing, I think, and also kind of my illustration, like art, that kind of thing. I really like to do things about like normal people. Like, I'm not really a fantasy type of person. A lot of my stories are grounded to the point of sometimes people like, Lassiter, this is kind of a what's going on here? There's nothing's happening in this story. And I'm like, listen, it's happening in here. It's the subtext. I swear, I promise it's not that boring. But I also do that with my drawing. I like to draw people in normal situations or people in situations that are like implied what the story might be. I don't know why I like to do that. I got a lot of notes in college where they're like, maybe try to externalize some of this. And, I've been trying to do more of that lately. So I don't know. I'm just kind of a boring guy.
I was just going to say sometimes constructive criticism might hurt to hear sometimes, but it usually is really helpful and kind of helps us open our eyes to things that maybe we weren't seeing before. But yeah, thanks so much. Are there any tips or tricks or maybe any general advice that you'd like to share for any of our readers who may be aspiring writers or aspiring artists who are also hoping to have their own work published one day?
I don't know. Every time I get published, it feels like a miracle. So I don't know if I really have any tips or tricks for getting published. I would say that what tripped me up at the start was cover letters. I would say that you should probably ask someone about like, what should I put in a cover letter? Because I really had no idea at the start. And I have like a little Google Doc now that has all of the cover letters that I've ever sent so that I can look at all of them and see like what might work best for this type of magazine, because a lot of magazines have different types of tones that they have. Some are like really professional and others might be a bit like jokey and they want you to show more personality instead of more uptight professionalism. So I would say that, scope it out, look at the magazines that you're doing, and maybe try to a little bit tailor what work you're sending and what vibe you're giving off to the magazine.
That is super practical advice. I'm sure our audience is really going to appreciate that. I can totally attest to not knowing how to tailor a cover letter in some situations, and sometimes it's hard to figure out what kind of tone you should be putting out for sure. But I think the underlying message of what you were saying is that it's always great to just be yourself, because I feel like that will come across the most authentic and that will get you where you need to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of facets of the self. Sometimes you just got to accentuate certain parts.
Yes, of course. My last question for you is if there's anything else that you'd like our audience to take away from meeting you, from our Meet the Author, you're more than welcome to share.
I hope that this all went well. And I've been like clutching my hands underneath the table. So I think they should know that. Thank you.
Don't worry at all. You did fantastic. And we're so happy that you were willing to do an interview with us. We appreciate it so much. And our audience does too. And thank you to our audience who's viewing and helping support Archetype. We really appreciate it. And please stay tuned for Lassiter's piece, Somewhere Beautiful. It is such a complex, interesting, and beautiful piece. Excuse the pun, I guess. But yeah, it's a great piece, and we're so excited to be featuring it in our next issue of Archetype.